Welcome to the Future of Supply Chain, presented by Dynamo. Each episode, we sit down with leaders in the industry as we build the future of supply chain together. Let's get into the show. Here's our host, Santosh Sankar.
Hey, ladies and gents, welcome back to the Future of Supply Chain podcast. I'm your host, Santosh Sankar. Joining me today is Peter Sand, Chief Analyst at Xeneta. Great to have you join, Peter.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, Santosh. It's good to be in your good company.
Absolutely. Feelings mutual here. And, I'll say many of our listeners in our audience have benefited from your analysis, whether they realize it or not. And we certainly read a lot of what you put out and disseminate through various outlets. But for a brief moment, tell us a bit more about Xeneta and what you spend your time thinking about and the data sets you pour over.
Yeah, thank you so much for all your kind attention, reading, listening in, and whatever you do in terms of picking up those sound bites that we seek to put out from Xeneta. I mean, we're all about transforming the way that freight is bought and sold, whether that's ocean freight or air freight, and we do so by not only crowdsourcing data from our dear customers, but also enriching that platform of ours where it's possible in order to enhance everybody's ability to make better decisions as they progress as a customer and as they gain more traction with their suppliers and in the market as such. So it's all about knowing more, learning more, understanding better what is it that makes the market, and of course then act on it in a smart way. So that's basically what we're all about at Simpson.
And so what's the Peter Sand story? How did you kind of get into this world of, ocean, air freight, the data that comes out of this rich and longstanding industry?
I'm just an old farm boy wanting to learn more every single day. It was, as I been told by many good industry colleagues, a little bit by coincidence, crashing into to the ocean industry, and it's like Hotel California. So I have no intention of checking out, but sticking around. So I've always been a fan of geography. I've always been a fan of understanding how the world evolves and what makes or breaks, say, human relations and trade on a global scale. And being an economist, economics by training, then that's just a perfect combination. I've seen many different shipping sectors. My main area, as you know now, container shipping, and I must say that I'm thrilled every day try and find out what's going on, and more importantly, of course, answering the questions on what comes next and what should I be paying attention to as a buyer or seller of freight in the market.
So how do you kind of perceive that your focus on maritime economics has shaped the perspective or the lens through which you even look at a supply chain today? Because they're clearly linked operationally, but they're clearly kind of things that you've observed through ups and downs that are very relevant and inform maybe some of the perspectives you have when it comes to the subject matter.
Yeah, if this was a video, you could probably see I had a little bit of gray hair, and I must say that that's really good in shipping, because it's not only about a long-standing people's business relation that makes it all happen, but also realizing that once another crisis hits, there are similarities yet striking differences. So the secret sauce here is to identify what's actually different and how does it change from what happened previously, right? We've been through COVID, we've been through Red Sea. That's still an issue. And what comes next? Arguably another crisis. We do not know the form and what will drive it at this moment. But once it gets around us, we will be able to extract insights on how do carriers operate, how do shippers procure freight, and how do the intermediaries of the freight forwarders act in between in terms of pricing, in terms of smart capacity management, in terms of maybe even changing supply chains because they need to improve their resilience, especially coming out of COVID. A lot of people scream for improved resilience, and it's an ongoing work, I would say.
And so at Xeneta, you've really doubled down on the concept of transparency, but also benchmarking, right? Through the data, you're able to share, but also collect from your partners. But I'd be curious. You mentioned COVID. We've talked about resilience. We talked about how also it feels like in supply chain, the only sure thing is that there will be disruption and change on an ongoing basis. But what do you believe kind of has led the industry now to really embrace a more data-led decision-making process rather than oftentimes even I now end up in offices where they go, "Oh, we've always tendered for the last 25 years to this group or this carrier or this NVOC. That's why we're going to continue to do it." And I'm kind of in my head, it's like, oh, that doesn't really make a lot of sense, but it's the reality of the industry. It's very relationship driven as well.
Yeah, but and it will remain so. It's just no longer a one-sided game. I mean, Senator have been around for 12, 13 years now, and in our very early days, carriers. I mean, we do not need to go back to. Well, even not even before the global financial crisis, right? So at that point in time, carriers were basically monopolizing industry insights. So we set out to break that monopoly, and hand on the heart, they were not really happy by us doing it at that point in time. But fast forward to where we are today, they can see that basically what we deliver in terms of transparency, in terms of a less opaque marketplace, is something that they can embrace too, because at the end of the day, they still want the better relations. And I mean, index linked contracts, as you mentioned, Santos, that's of course something that enables those relationships also to flourish beyond that of price setting, because many shippers go into the market with their only need being certainty of shipments. So can I secure my volume throughout my say tendering period, whether that's like 1 quarter or 1 year? You may have a flexible price, but you know that you will always have space on board those ships. You will never get priced out of the market. What we have in store for you coming next, of course, is that the price level. Can you also fix that at some point in time? That's when you need a little bit of financial magic in terms of a hedging instrument. We got that in the making, because then also not only the operational guys that basically procure freight and ensure that those supply chains keep running, but also the budgeting guys down in finance or the CFO gets a bigger
Yeah.
smile on his face, because then he can also predict, okay, we know this much volume is probably what we're going to ship in the next period, and we also got a hedging tool to hedge against our index linked contracts. It's not magic.
Mm.
It's just something you need to get your head around thoroughly in a smart way. And many of our customers basically not only have conversations with us around that right here, right now, also in conversation, of course, with their freight forwarders that can also see the benefit of this. And they do not throw all their business into one basket, right? So they try it out,
Sure.
maybe a selection 10, 15 trade lanes up front, and then they build on top of that with the experience they get. And they see how it works with the whether that's a partnership relationship that's broken, or whether it's a contract that need a little bit of fixing, then they can move forward with that in their back.
You know, I sat in a prior life on trading floors on Wall Street where standardization, certain contract structures, futures, forwards, were very commonplace. And while there may not be a open market for everything, you'd be surprised at kind of the markets that do exist for some very vague things as well that are traded in a rather standardized way. But the reason I share all that is the question that's still bothered me, and I've been venturing in this space for nearly a decade now, is why has ocean and air been a laggard in this standardization effort? Is there a certain data unlock we needed? Was it kind of change, and change is hard and it takes time when you have so many different stakeholders involved? What is it? What do you kind of perceive it to be?
Oh, thanks. I think you hit it right on its head there. With it's not been one single aspect that have prevented this industry from embracing that of hedging or say securing freight forward, but it's like an inherent thing in every player in the market. They kind of like also that uncertainty and unpredictability in the market, and do their own magic to make supply chains keep rolling once troubles hits the fan. So maybe it's also a sign of times. I mean, we digest data for breakfast, for lunch, for even late night supper, right? So that kind of say drive have definitely also brought us to this inflection point in time where it may just be fruitful to bring in hedging tools and forwarding agreements to a larger extent than what we have seen. Because in the oil market, and as you mentioned yourself, many markets have been operating like this for years and decades. But you also need you need the players to embrace it, and you need the more than anything the liquidity in the market to ensure that it can be done. We assess it as the liquidity is there. We assess it also like the interest now, especially following the crazy COVID years and now the Red Sea is like, okay, we had enough of volatility for now. We can still slice and dice the entire cake of our freight procurement or how we sell to our customers if you're a carrier or a forwarder. But we would also like to set some business aside on more fixed, predictable agreements. So I think the time is right now to do just that. And I mean, we go on training sessions with I mean, for everyone in the industry on say publicly available webinars, but of course also train our customers in how to set it up. It's not been more than a couple of weeks ago that I'm pretty proud to say that we even won an award for this index link contract simulator tool that we now have available. So yeah, that's pretty awesome, and it's basically how you get a chance to play with it and understand the dynamics, because it's quite simple, but I mean you still need to understand. I mean, those elements that you need to fix in terms of frequency of updating, how do the volumes go in, and of course the importance, which index do you link your contract to?
Mm. So leaning in on the index link contracts, right? Let's break it down, because not all of our audience might be as sophisticated in maritime container freight contracting. But talk to us about the concept of the index and how that impacts kind of the contract you have, both for capacity on a ship, but also the cost at which you're buying that capacity on the ship. How does all this come together?
Yeah, if I may step back just for also the trying to train our listeners in what is this actually all about, right? If we leave index linked contracts aside for a moment, we can look at a market that has a short term market and a longer term market. Short term market is basically what we can say that's a spot market. So if you've got something to sell in the market or buy in the market, you put it into the marketplace, and it can be instantly fixed at a very liquid price in the market. You might say the opposite to that spot market is for a contract to be fixed on a price and volume. That could be for a specific trade lane and for a specific price. During times of upheaval, much volatility in the market, at times the shipper breaks that contract or the carrier breaks that contract. So it's inflexible in that way. So in order basically to bring those two together and ensure that relationship stays intact, getting back to the point of resilience, because as a shipper, you hate to get your cargo rolled, lose out on an opportunity to go to market with your new products because the underlying, say, logistics doesn't work. So that's where an index-linked contract come into it to its fruition, right? So if you're an American shipper, go standard from Shanghai perhaps to Long Beach or Los Angeles. Yep. That's a very classic route to the index, say, link your contract on the back of, right? So Xeneta has all the data that you need to go against that benchmark. You as a shipper must understand what kind of equipment types am I shipping my goods in. If you're shipping heavy stuff, you're probably benchmarking yourself against a 20-foot unit. If you more go volume, that's like a 40-foot unit, right? That's like
Hmm.
the normal size in the market. But it's not like just because the box is twice as big, the price isn't double up. Especially not on the Transpac. That's a much more efficient market where you may pay 80% of the price of a 40-foot for a 20-foot, right? So again, you need
Right.
to understand what kind of equipment do you go into, right? And then of course also understand who is your counterpart in the market, right? So if I'm a shipper and you are a forwarder or a carrier, you must of course agree on this is the index that you make your contract on the back of. And then, of course, not. I mean, you can go by the just the face value of that index, or you can say, okay, this is actually, as I alluded to before, it's a little bit of a hybrid between a short market and a long market. So I'm not going to pay you like the full upside in the short market because then I could just go into the short market. So give me the spot market minus perhaps 20%. Often in
Mm.
a classic market, the long-term contracts, you get a discount on that, right? So it
Yep.
may just be that you then decide, okay, let's adjust the prices on a quarterly basis, and that's it, right? And you can then ensure yourself space on board. Both parties have agreed on this flexibility in terms of pricing. The volumes can be allotted as you go along, and if the market rise, then you as a shipper compensate, of course, the forwarder or the carrier for that say higher price in the market, but you still get space on board.
That's right.
In the opposite case, right? In a falling market, you as a shipper are not overpaying the carrier or the logistic provider too much money, right? So you're not
Yep.
cheating out. You're not breaking your contract because you want to go into the cheaper spot market. So that's the relationship. So we're doing it in a smart way. We're enhancing and utilizing the data available. Both parties are able, when they go into a contract, to understand the market conditions. And I think that's what Xeneta is all about: knowing more about the market, learning about the tricks and the tendering and how you can do it in a smarter way every single day, and then just say move on from cheating on one another or breaking contracts, and into a profitable relationship, which
That's right.
by any standard is what all parties want, right?
And so we've clearly gone through several years of volatility, especially as we think about ocean, even in air. We've seen a version of that as a result of quick commerce. Um, what change, or sorry, what lessons should people reflect on, and what change might they then affect when it comes to approaching tendering cycles as a result?
One question that we get from our customers regularly is the timing of tendering. They are obviously reflecting on how they have done in the past, if they should change that going forward because of changing market conditions or because of changing dynamics in the market or different ways of doing it, right? So it may just be that, okay, how do I split my volumes, not only in terms of air or ocean? I mean, air is really frustrated ocean freight, you might say. So if
Hmm.
the carriers on the ocean perform really, really bad, you have no other place to go. Or if you're really, say, into e-commerce, of course, that's a board game of its own, really driving air freight these years, right? With, of course, the now canceled de minimis rules as a big game changer in that market. But it's really about how should I structure or how should I approach my tendering, especially in a market that where we, at least at Xeneta, we can see there's a structural overcapacity in the market. There are massive volatility still, driven by lots of geopolitics. I mean, the U.S. presidency currently has a little bit of stop and go tactics, setting up tariff walls, postponing them, tearing them down, building them somewhere else. It's a nightmare for the shippers and the forwarders, obviously, right? But it, of course, gives them a reason to rethink. Should I still go by tendering a full year starting right around now? If you are tendering on, say, Asia to Europe, you kind of like get into conversations around this time of year, finalizing by the end of the year, implementing it from 1st Jan, right? If you're on Transpac,
Right.
it's a little bit later, starting around TPM, go to Long Beach, right? And then see if you can get a contract starting from 1st May. So, but one of the advices that we give out, because we can see there's an opportunity here for all the players. Don't come knocking on the same door at the same time, right? So and especially if there is an opportunity in your existing contracts, maybe to extend the rates, maybe to do something different or even earlier, because the market may be right for you. And of course, that depends really on the individual risk profile of the company, but also of the goods that you ship. If you're shipping in reefer containers and it's fresh produce, you may not be able to go to market at any other time than what you do right now. But during times like we've seen recently, many shippers have shown the ability also of shipping, say, outside the normal windows of peak season or pre-Chinese Lunar New Year. So if they can do 25% of their annual global tendering in Q4, maybe 25% in Q1, maybe 25% in Q2, they are not only spreading out the risk, they are also, like, say, not putting immense pressure on themselves to wrap it up in a fixed time span, and they also keep themselves in the market. Because also, if you're a shipper, you're only tendering once a year, you may just unplug yourself from say the market noise, and you just have a rolling contract, good or bad. But you have a lot to learn if you only look at the market conditions and where we are once a year. So stay in the market. I think is probably the better advice that we can give all the time.
And I'd be curious, right? You mentioned on overcapacity in the market, and I think anybody objectively looking in would agree there are tactics that the ocean carriers use in order to almost manage down this overcapacity. That's why one will roll freight oftentimes. But demand is also changing in part because of the trade war, the expiration of the de minimis concept here in the US. If you were to have a crystal ball, what does 2026 look like in terms of demand with these two factors accounted for? Is there any kind of direction of travel even you've been able to pick up on?
Yeah, this is where I should just tell you that about 10 days from now, we will actually reveal that. So if you only log on to Xeneta.com website and give us a little bit of information, and we'll share that with you. But let me give you a little bit of sneak peek before you do that, because we basically just concluded our thinking around what comes about next year. And the way we do that is, of course, to find out what are the main drivers in the market to watch out for. And of course, the animal in the room is the Red Sea diversion, without doubt. It's the one thing that have also made carriers profitable in the past 2 years, because it have basically absorbed a lot of overcapacity that would otherwise drain the finances of the shipping lines. As we recall, 2 years from now, carriers were actually loss-making. And then came the Red Sea. So that's one aspect, of course. When does that happen? When do we see carriers return to Red Sea? That's the $1 trillion question. Most likely not in the first half of the year, but let's see. I mean, you wouldn't risk cargo, crew, or ship at any given chance. So you need, say, geopolitics to work its magic in the wider Middle East region, because this is not something that is solved only around Yemen and the southern part of Red Sea. So that's really a tricky one. Of course, also talking about capacity against demand, we see demand have surprised on the upside for a number of years now, driven by this uncertainty and this interest in making your business and supply chains more resilient to withstand those problems that have occurred, either from whether it's COVID, whether it's Red Sea, or adverse trade politics. You have only been able to benefit from fast forwarding your goods more, say, earlier and you would otherwise do. We call that front loading, and we have basically seen much higher demand growth in 20 2024 and 2025 than would otherwise be the case. Our expectations are for a little bit of reversal of that trend in 2026, and this may be the most daring forecast. Things will probably not get worse in 2026. I may be wrong on that one, but if we set that as a baseline, if things do not get worse, then that's probably what you should be looking at in terms of demand growth next year. Something that looks like overall GDP, at least on a global scale. We know that it differs a lot from the various regions. We know that Chinese exports have really been diversed away from the usual suspects. So whereas North America have basically dropped volumes this year out of Asia, out of China, we have seen volumes into Europe, into South America, into Middle East grow by double digit, right? So of course, always when you look into the market, be sure of your headline before you drill down into the various details, because there's always something hidden there. So against fleet growth a little bit higher than demand, yeah, cards seem to be stacked against that of the carriers. So we're in for downward pressure, and we see and expect carriers to fight back from the abyss of loss-making rates. And we basically just seen that earlier in September, right on the Transpac, where rates suddenly jumped up. A bit of a dead cat bounce. We're now very much back as shippers called the bluff. But we'll see more of that poker game being played throughout 2026, I'm sure.
Amazing. Well, I'm going to bring us home here, and kind of the last question I have in our discussion is, we talked about how part of what you're doing at Xeneta is really leaning into transparency, data-informed decisions for one to better understand the maritime or containerized freight market, the air market, and use data in order to inform how they think about managing their supply chains. And so, on behalf of the supply chain leaders listening, how do they build a culture and how do they affect that change that creates trust and acts on data and actionable insights from data rather than kind of prior modalities of thinking? What have you seen that works? What have you seen maybe that doesn't work in that regard?
The one word that pops into my mind is trustworthiness. So the industry, while built on human relations and market intelligence, there is so much data and information around that you may not be able to understand to its full extent, let alone assess whether they are trustworthy or not. I think that's probably where we at Xeneta sit somewhere as the neutral middleman, because we collect, as alluded to earlier, we crowdsource data from parties in the space. And of course, cleanse and quality ensure that they are neutral and they can all benchmark on the back of that. So we are unbiased, neutral in the market, and you need to understand the methodology behind and then fully embrace the use of data. I'm not going to name or shame anyone, but I'm pretty sure that everybody working the floor at a trade show will know that wow, there's a lot of promises around. Maybe also later down the road it'll bring some returns, and it's because, of course, you also alluded to the world of the international world of trade and shipping. I mean, people like their own data, and it's not like there's a mass and there's a whole vault of data just ready for you to tap into. So you need to find those pockets of real intel, and then move on from there. So find out who is your real partner in the marketplace, and who's the trustworthy one bringing data around. Then start working with that. So I know there's a lot of talk about AI, smart ways of basically making logistics people unemployed tomorrow. Well, I'm still here. Santosh, you're still here. You've seen it all for a number of years also, and I think it will probably be one that can enhance the way that we do business today, more than take our jobs away from us. So I think that's probably also one thing that we do when we look into the crystal ball, as hazy as it may be. Sometimes we combine at Xeneta the AI tools that we have available with human intelligence, because on the top of that, you need to combine the best of both worlds in order to get something that's trustworthy and reliable, and hopefully also more accurate than wrong when looking into to the future, whether that's for the spot market or the long-term contract market. So be very much aware of the data that you digest, understand how they come about, and then just start using them. Put them to the test. Ask the providers if they can do a better job tomorrow than yesterday. We strive to do that. Acquiring a fellow in the market intelligence place for container shipping only recently, a company called EC. We heard a lot of say positive feedback from our customers already, because they could instantly see that, wow, you're enriching an already great platform with more good stuff here. So it just puts a smile on his face, because it also makes my job a little bit easier if we bring that kind of tool to our customers, so they can do the stuff themselves.
Amazing, Peter. Thank you so much for indulging us here and helping us think about the freight markets when it comes to maritime and air through a bit more of a data-oriented or data-led lens. But I want to finish off with a bit of rapid fire, just a fun way that I try to wrap up with guests from time to time.
I'm ready.
I'm going to share 3 statements. You have 20 seconds to give me your immediate thoughts. You're ready.
Okay.
First up,
Always.
favorite port city to visit?
Oh, that must be Los Angeles, Long Beach, once a year at 3 p.m.
If you weren't analyzing the shipping markets, what career path would you have taken, or what market would you be analyzing?
Oh, I'm a big sports fan, so I'd like to be like a pundit in the world of say soccer or European football. That's
Yep.
really an area of interest of mine. But I could also see myself baking bread as a baker man.
And then last but not least, if containers could talk, what story would you most want to hear?
That of traveling the world, that of going adventurous places. I had a good friend at school 3 decades ago now, who actually went to sea. And at that point in time, you mailed postcards back to your friends and family, and I received postcards from all over the world. This guy was basically, well, doing what that container would do to me today: tell stories from all over the place, going special places, experiencing new stuff, cultures, and people, and just enjoying planet Earth.
Amazing. Well, with that, Peter, thank you so much for joining us. We'll certainly keep an eye out for your new report that you were kind enough to tease a bit to us today. And as always, we'll be avid consumers of Xeneta. Cheers.
An absolute pleasure to be in your studio today, Santosh. And thank you so much for all the listeners. Thanks for your kind attention.
Thanks for watching. Follow us at dynamo.vc for all the latest episodes. We'll see you next time.